last video segment, we talked about the outcomes that you've seen so far with your work in Africa. But given what you've produced or what you've accomplished, I know you've run into some significant challenges. So would you please share something about those challenges?
Yeah. Well, I'll give you probably what I would say the top 3 challenges that
That'd be great.
We've worked with. The first one is and anybody that's worked in another culture would know about this, but it's about, being a learner. It's like you don't know what you don't know, and really learning and understanding the culture and the meaning and the context. So that is always, always a challenge. The second one is really about how strong, like the strength of the assumptions and the myths and the history and the traditions and the culture is, it's just really, it runs really deep. So a lot of challenges with how do you shift anything like that, and what's really necessary to shift versus really preserve. And then the third one is about the differences between the American culture and the African culture, and specifically in Africa, in Kenya, there are a couple things that are completely opposite. And it's one thing to read about them, you can read a book about this, but to actually engage in it, the way we are into productivity, the way we manage time, the way that we, hold people and systems accountable, the Kenyans are the exact opposite. So when you think about holding a meeting for, a particular audience, like women, you want to show up on a certain day and time because you're only there for 5 days or, whatever the period of time is you can't rely on what we would expect in terms of, people showing up and how do you follow up with people. So all 3 of these things are a constant challenge that we have to manage.
So do you have an example that could articulate some of these challenges?
Yeah, I have so many stories, but the one that I think, especially, speaking to people that might be doing cross-cultural work, that I think is most relevant, is just about when you meet with people of another culture. So, in the POCOT, the first time I went out there, I was really, really careful to just listen, just try to understand, just listen. And then over time, I began to feel like I had enough information to, present and speak and facilitate meetings. But I'm being translated once and sometimes twice over because there's 2 languages there. There's a Swahili and then there's a POCOT tribal language. So imagine I'm just going to say these 5 words. I wait, it gets translated again. I'm watching the audience. And there was one point at a meeting, it was probably about 100 or so women. And I noticed that I'm telling this very heartfelt, important information that was very serious. And every time I went to go speak, I would wait, I would watch, and they would laugh. So the first couple times I'd look at the translators, everything okay? Do they understand me? Oh, yeah, they understand you, Jenna. Keep going. So this kept happening, and what I realized after when I debriefed with the translators and the people that were supporting me was that, first off, they were entertained by me. You see, I use my hands, and they were engaged, but they had they were looking at this from a different perspective of who I was, where I was coming from, and some of the things I was talking about, the metaphors I was using, and the meanings I was using came across as kind of humorous and funny to them. So here I am trying to do a serious message. I was the wrong person for that. So one of the things we learned moving forward was to only use me or certain people in context that actually help to get across not just the message, but kind of the meaning and the attitude that we want them to have, whether it be serious, whether it be joyous, whether it be inspirational. So we often, when we bring teams over there, we get really clear about different people, and sometimes certain topics I don't speak about because I'm from America. I don't talk to people about female genital mutilation. I don't try to train them because I don't understand that it's not part of my culture, and so it's best by a local person. So There's
great. That's a great story.
Yeah, I have many, many, many more.
I know you do. So we're going to, at the end of these video segments, let people know how they can get more of your information and stories.
Yeah.
So for the next video segment, we're going to talk about the specific OD principles that you're using with this large group work in Africa.
Okay.